You know what's crazy? Most people think building wealth is about having some genius investment strategy or making six figures. But the truth is way simpler and way harder. It's about hitting three specific numbers that completely change your relationship with money. I'm talking about real milestones here, not save your first $1,000 feel good nonsense. These are the actual dollar amounts where your money stops feeling like a burden and starts working for you. Let's break down what these numbers are, why they matter, and how long it actually takes to hit them. Milestone number one, $100,000, the hardest part. Getting to your first $100,000 is absolutely brutal, not because the math is hard, but because it feels like you're getting nowhere. Let me show you what I mean. Say you're investing $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. You might be thinking, yeah, right, who has that lying around? But here's the reality. That's less than what most people spend on food delivery, impulse purchases, and random crap without even noticing. It's actually a pretty realistic number if you're serious about this. The thing is, when you're starting from zero, basically all your account growth comes from you. Compound interest is technically working, but it's doing so little that you barely notice it. Think about it. If you have $10,000 saved and it grows 7%, that's $700. Cool. But you're putting in $6,000 every year from your own paycheck. You're doing almost all the work. By the time you finally hit $100,000, you've been grinding for about a decade, and most of that money came straight from your paycheck, not from investment returns. This is why so many people quit. You check your account and think, at this rate, I'll be 90 before I can retire. You watch friends buy new cars and take fancy vacations while you're sitting there with your boring index funds feeling like an idiot. But here's what most people miss. You just finished the hardest part, because from here, things get really interesting. Remember how it took over a decade to reach that first $100,000? The next $100,000 takes only about 5 years. Same contributions, it's same returns, way different outcome. Why? Because compound interest finally has something substantial to work with. At $200,000, you've personally put in around $96,000 over those years, but your account shows $200,000. That means over $100,000 came from the market, more than you've actually saved yourself. The market is now contributing more than you are, and it keeps accelerating. Each $100,000 takes less time than the one before it. By the time you hit $500,000, your portfolio is generating about $35,000 a year in growth on its own. That's like having a second job that you never actually have to show up for. Milestone number two, $650,000 when fear loses its power. This number seems random, but here's why it matters. At $650,000, you can safely withdraw around $30,000 per year without touching your principal forever. $30,000 a year isn't replacing your full income. You're not retiring early and buying a yacht, but it is something way more valuable: actual financial security. Losing your job goes from catastrophic to just annoying. You have breathing room. You're not panicking about rent next month. You can take a pay cut for a job you actually enjoy. Your investments make up the difference. You have real negotiating power. Toxic workplace, bad boss, you can walk away because you don't desperately need that paycheck. This is the milestone where fear stops controlling your decisions. You're not rich, but you're also not fragile anymore. And that changes everything. Most people spend their entire lives making choices based on fear. Fear of losing their job, fear of not having enough, fear of taking risks. At $650,000, that fear doesn't disappear, but it loses most of its grip on you. Milestone number three, $1 million, you've won. Does $1 million still matter in 2025? Yeah, but not in the way Instagram wants you to think. $1 million today doesn't buy what it did in 1995. You're not getting private jets, but here's why it still absolutely matters. At conservative withdrawal rates, $1 million generates $40,000 to $48,000 per year sustainably. Add in Social Security's $24,000 and you're looking at $64,000 to $72,000 annually without working. That's not yacht money, but it's a genuinely comfortable life in most places. You're not worried about rent. You're not skipping doctor visits. You're just living like a normal person, except you don't have to work anymore. Want to take that $5,000 vacation? You can actually afford it without guilt because your investments are working in the background. Want to help your kid with college? You have options. Want to take a year off and write a book? You can. The difference isn't that you stop spending. It's that you spend on what actually matters to you, not what you think you're supposed to want. And you have the freedom to say no to everything else. If you keep investing that same $500 a month after hitting $1 million, you're adding around $500,000 every 4 years, and it keeps accelerating. By your late 50s or early 60s, you could have $2 to $3 million. Your portfolio is generating $80,000 to $140,000 per year in passive growth while you sleep. That means you'll probably die with millions in the bank. Your kids or grandkids get a life-changing inheritance, not because you were rich, but because you understood compound interest and had the discipline to let it work. The numbers don't lie. $100,000 is where compound interest finally starts pulling its weight. $650,000 is where you gain real breathing room and fear loses its power. $1 million is where you've essentially won, not because you're Instagram rich, but because you're actually free. The math is simple. The execution is brutally hard because it requires patience in a world designed for instant gratification. You'll watch friends buy new cars they can't afford, take expensive vacations on credit cards, upgrade to bigger houses that drain their savings, live like they're rich when they're drowning in debt. Meanwhile, you'll be sitting there with your boring index funds, driving a paid-off car, living below your means, wondering if you're missing out. Some people will call you cheap, say you're wasting your youth, insist you should live a little. They're wrong. You can enjoy life and build wealth. They're not mutually exclusive. Spend money on things you genuinely value. Just don't confuse spending with happiness, and don't destroy your financial future for temporary dopamine hits. The person driving the 10-year-old Toyota might actually be wealthier than the person in the brand new BMW. They just understand that something most people never figure out. Wealth isn't about looking successful. It's about being free. Free to work because you want to, not because you have to. Free to walk away from toxic situations. Free to take risks and pursue passions. Free to define success on your own terms. That freedom starts with a single decision. Make it today. At Money Anomaly, I break down the wealth building strategies most people figure out way too late. Don't be most people. Subscribe now.